Yeah. So I have a lot of thoughts here. So I think 4th and goal from the 1 in almost every instance there is, except for like down 2 with 5 seconds left, is a must go for it. Like where to get the yard, getting the first down means you get the touchdown. That is so different than needing 1 yard, and if you get it, you still have 13 more yards to get. Like, and because of that, and because of this graphic that showed you what the Patriots offense had done up to that point, 12 plays, 12 yards, and because you were at home with a backup quarterback, and because I would assume Sean Payton, who is brilliant enough to devise his own quarterback algorithm for who to draft and is never shy and has been correct most of the time in calling his own shot about how cutting edge they are, he has access to the Doppler radar, and you had to know it was on the board that the weather was going to get bad. I think not kicking a field goal there, and this is a first guess, you can ask Danny Parkins about it when he's out here later, he's sitting next to me, was crazy. And it was, I want to reiterate the point I was making in the beginning about being 13 yards away even if you get it. I think a field goal wouldn't have been that much worse. Let me rephrase it. I'm not certain picking up 1 yard there and getting 1st and 10 from the 13 is definitively better than a field goal, because then it gives your young or your backup quarterback more opportunities for catastrophic red zone turnover, which we learned later in the game he was going to be flirting with. And the opportunity to go up 10 points and put even more pressure on New England, I think was valuable. And I certainly don't think if you're going to go for it, it can be a bootleg as opposed to finding a way to try to power for 1 yard. So in real time, I hated it. I'm not going to say this is why they lost, because we don't know how the game would have played out after that. And we don't know if the guy would have made it. Maybe they still would have got, I don't know. But I think it was a mistake.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a big mistake. And I think, Nick, we saw a field goal, a decision not to go for the field goal by Sean McVay in the second game had something to do with that. We'll talk about that as well. I think coaches have gone, like the pendulum has swung a little too far the other way. Initially, it was like just kind of the new, young analytics guys who were going for it on 4th down. It seemed crazy. The more mature guys were staying pat with tradition. And now it's almost like teams don't think 3 points is valuable. And I thought, Nick, at one point a few years ago, it was like, we're playing Patrick Mahomes. Threes aren't going to be enough. That's one thing. But now it's gotten to that point in almost every situation, no matter who the opposing quarterback is, 3 points is valuable, especially in playoff games. And I get it. He didn't know. I'm sure he knew the weather was going to get worse. He probably didn't know how bad, but that's his job to know that. But you had ample evidence that we are shutting them down. We got arguably the best defense in the league. Let's trust it. And he didn't do that. And I think it was huge, because once the snow really got bad, no offense was really moving the football.
Yeah, it was just bad. There's really no other way to frame it. I called it a terrible decision before the play even unfolded, while we were all live streaming the game. The choice simply makes no logical sense whatsoever. I find it amusing how many people are attempting to construct arguments like, well, we had a chance to go up 14 neo, or other similar points. It's like, you still had a whole 13 yards to go on that play. You have your backup quarterback in the game. Anytime you even find yourself in the red zone with a backup quarterback, that is a significant victory. Anytime you are in field goal range with a backup, that is a massive win. Don't get greedy. Don't get your hand caught in the cookie jar. If it were Bo Nix under center, then sure, we could have a legitimate conversation about aggression. But it wasn't. It was the backup. And of course, you have to possess some awareness that weather conditions could deteriorate. If you didn't, then you are operating as a poorly run organization in that specific moment. You are poorly run because Sean Payton, you're coaching in Denver. You have a structure in place where, even if a storm materialized out of thin air, you should have a dedicated person within the Broncos organization whose sole responsibility is to monitor and communicate weather changes. Whether it's Week 5, the Super Bowl, or the AFC Championship, their job is to inform you the moment conditions shift. You say, your job is to watch the weather and tell me, hey, it looks like things might turn around this time. You just beep into the headset and say, Sean, just a heads up, some flurries are expected, it's going to get windy, maybe a bit of mist. I always want to know. I want to know. That's it. And you say, thanks, and that's all you need. So, if he truly had no indication the weather might change, then that makes the decision even more indefensible. It becomes even more unjustifiable. This situation is particularly interesting because I've taken such strong issue with a series of coaches opting to go for it on fourth down in critical moments. And they all lost. The Panthers did it against the Rams. The Bears did it against the Rams. The Eagles did it against the 49ers. And the Broncos did it against the Patriots. All in pivotal situations. If every single one of those teams had just kicked the field goal, or even punted for that matter, they would have won their respective games. They would have won. It's pretty unbelievable. You had the opportunity to go up 10-0. We could dissect this game a million different ways. The dropped passes, the blocked field goal, this miscue, that error. And I've already done some of that analysis. Sometimes, as difficult as it is, you just have to accept that certain things happen in football. Sometimes you're going to have a field goal blocked. Sometimes you're going to miss one wide right. Sometimes you're going to have a pass dropped. But as I stated in an earlier video, any great coach will always preach the same principle. They'll tolerate physical errors. They'll allow you to make a mistake. You're going to drop a pass, make a bad throw, commit a penalty. It's a guaranteed aspect of sports. However, it's the mental mistakes that coaches consistently hold you accountable for, because those involve a conscious decision. You might dive for a ball and miss it. You might have a receiver wide open and throw it at his feet or 5 feet over his head. It's disappointing. It's rough. But it happens. It's practically guaranteed. In those moments, you have to let it go, especially as a fan, because you acknowledge these players aren't perfect. They aren't machines. But when there's an extra second to deliberate, when the coach, the person in charge of those high-stakes decisions, makes the wrong call, that is where it becomes incredibly tough to swallow. Listen, I'm not the type of person who believes you can simply retroactively add points. It always rubs me the wrong way when a game ends 30-27 and someone says, oh, if they had made that field goal in the first quarter, they would have won. It's like, well, yes and no. You can't just add 3 points and assume everything else plays out identically. The entire game changes. If you make that field goal, you're kicking off instead of them getting the ball at a specific spot with a specific play call. It's the whole butterfly effect. You can't just add and subtract points on a spreadsheet. However, I firmly believe that if they go up 10-0, the entire dynamic of the game shifts. Jarrett Stidham is operating with a different mindset. Sean Payton is calling a different game. The domino effect is real. One could argue, well, maybe it would have been even worse. Maybe Stidham throws a pick 6 right after. That's certainly possible. But the defense was absolutely dominating that game. They had all the momentum. The Patriots would have been down 10-0, which feels like an absolutely massive victory for the Broncos. Being up by 10 with a backup quarterback, at home, in the AFC Championship, with a snowstorm approaching. Are you kidding me? This is what I emphasized, and I'll conclude with this point. When you have a backup quarterback, the psychological weight of the scoreboard is magnified. If you're down by 1 score, it feels like you're down by 2. If you're up by 3, it feels like you're tied. If you're tied, it feels like you're losing. With your backup in the game, things can spiral and become ugly with astonishing speed, as we literally witnessed. Before they attempted that 4th down, before they decided against the field goal, this is exactly what I said live. You have to kick the field goal. You have to go up 2 scores, because that cushion allows you to absorb a terrible mistake. It allows for that awful play, whether on offense or defense, that leads to a Patriots score. Then you can say, well, that's a bummer, that sucks. But you know what? We're still up by 3. We still have the lead. It provides that essential buffer. They didn't have that buffer. They made that terrible mistake with the backward pass, and suddenly they weren't even down. They were tied. And as I said, when you're tied with a backup quarterback, it feels like you're losing. 7-7 feels like a deficit, especially considering how it transpired. You didn't take the points, you had the catastrophic fumble, and then you begin to lose any semblance of hope that Jarrett Stidham can rise to the occasion and carry the team to victory. Now you're thinking, oh my gosh, we're tied. You start feeling, can we please just kick another field goal? Can we please just get some points? And now you're relying on a 57-yard attempt, and then you're relying on kicks during a period where everyone is slipping and sliding. Visibility is poor. It's just a brutal situation. It's a tough one, man. It absolutely is. No ifs, ands, or buts. Sometimes takes don't need to be sugar-coated. It's a tough, brutal, self-inflicted loss. And it served as the unfortunate icing on the cake of the Bo Nix injury saga. I'll end here, because this point just needs to be emphasized repeatedly. Stop pretending like Bo Nix couldn't or wouldn't have made a difference in this football game. Please stop pretending that isn't the reality, because it unequivocally is. Stop pretending Bo Nix wouldn't have been a difference maker. Just stop. You sound utterly ridiculous. Those are my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about the Bo Nix-less Denver Broncos making the mistake to go for it on 4th down, ultimately coming up short in a 10-7 game? Let me know your perspectives. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, let's get some discussions going. Let's get into some spirited debates. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you become part of it. I want to build something we all genuinely feel connected to, something we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It genuinely helps with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.